Guess who's back? Last August, a disaster attempt at upgrading my computer ultimately left me with a defective CPU, a busted motherboard, and several fried hard drives, but against all odds, I finally managed to restore mostly everything to working order. It's been an improbably long and frustrating journey to get back to this point, and to be honest, one that has left me questioning the future of this channel. I started this program 4.5 years ago, and a lot's changed since then. I've changed, the show has changed, even YouTube has changed. But not everything has changed. I'm still using the same song, I still have that shirt, and my average view count, sadly, is roughly the same as it's been for years. I do enjoy bringing you the news, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot out of my weekend, and while I very much appreciate the longtime supporters and regular viewers over the years, YouTube has made it very clear that they want their creators to go big or go home. I had thought, with the loss of my hard drive, that the choice had been made for me, but it seems like I'm going to have to decide the fate of this channel on my own after all. So I'm going to shoot for big, or at the very least monetized. That means a minimum of 1,000 subscribers with at least half of them actually watching the content. I'm going to push, and I need your help to do it. I think it can be done. In fact, somehow I gained an additional 20 subscribers during my hiatus, getting me just over 200. That's an encouraging start. So that's where things stand. If you enjoy my weekly roundup of pop culture news, you know what to do, and if you don't worry, I'll tell you at the end of the video. And now, without any further ado, it looks like I'm not the only one that's back. Mad Magazine relaunched this week after its not-so-final issue back in February. After taking a couple months off to move from New York to Burbank, presumably to join their corporate compatriots at DC Entertainment, the satire magazine kicked off with a new #1, a new staff, and a new Twitch channel where they played Injustice 2, because never pass up an opportunity for corporate synergy. Meanwhile, bad news for fans of The Evil Dead. On Friday, it was announced that Ash vs. Evil Dead's third season will also be its last. The Starz revival of the classic horror franchise brought Bruce Campbell back into his most famous role, but it seems all good things must end. Campbell has previously said that this will likely be the last opportunity he'll have to play Ash Williams, so it seems that the cabin door is finally closing on this franchise once and for all. Over in video games, Edmund McMillen announced his next title this week, a Binding of Isaac prequel game called The Legend of Bumb-Bo, a procedurally generated dungeon crawler that combines turn-based RPG mechanics with match 4 puzzles and a cardboard aesthetic. And speaking of cardboard, Nintendo released their Nintendo Labo kits this week, getting Bill Nye the Science Guy himself to shill for the cardboard pop-out games. You can build robots, go fishing, build even more robots. I can see how this would be fun. Heading over to new releases, hitting theaters this week, we have Avengers: Infinity War. The decade-long wait is over at last. After 18 movies as setup, Thanos is finally getting out of that space throne and joining the fray. This is pretty much the biggest movie event ever, and it may as well be the only movie playing next week. But shockingly, it isn't. It seems that even the Infinity Gauntlet can't stop the escape of Prisoner 614. So who has the stones to go up against Thanos? It turns out Ron Perlman does in this action comedy about a couple of sheriff's deputies trying to balance right and wrong with the law. Meanwhile, over in television, Westworld is back for its much-anticipated second season on HBO for some creepy holodeck robot sci-fi. And for some good old sword-fighting action, Into the Badlands is back for its third season on AMC, looking very Highlander-y this year. Over on the CW, it turns out they do still have non-superhero shows. The 100 returns for a 5th season this week, only 95 to go, I guess. And most importantly, Archer is back, going on an island adventure for his 9th season on FXX. So, would the Danger Zone include Danger Island, or would the Danger Zone be a particularly dangerous area on Danger Island? I guess we'll have to find out. Anyway, trying out something new, let's head into book releases, starting with this week's Dracula Cha-Cha-Cha by Kim Newman. This third installment of the Anno Dracula series puts the vampire in late 1950s Rome, set to marry a Moldavian princess while a journalist gets caught up in a vampire hunt with an undead British secret agent. Color me intrigued. For some more horror fiction, Alien: The Cold Forge by Alex White is a new story in the Aliens universe about the Weyland-Yutani Company and their continuing efforts to weaponize the xenomorphs. speaking of aliens, also releasing this week is Fire and Stone, a 17-issue crossover event from the 2015 Dark Horse comic line. In other comics, a paperback collection of Neil Gaiman's 2006 take on the Eternals releases this week. Could this be Marvel priming the pump for the franchise before a movie announcement thrusts them into the spotlight? And that's not the only Gaiman release this week either. The fantasy writer's take on Norse mythology is also scheduled for a paperback release this week. And also getting a paperback release is Phasma, because somebody had to do something with that character eventually, right? Over in video games, releasing on the PC this week is Frostpunk. From the developers of This War of Mine, this is a city builder game that has you making tough choices to rebuild civilization in a frozen apocalyptic landscape. And speaking of apocalyptic landscapes, BattleTech is finally here. This game has seen quite a bit of legal drama behind the scenes. Due to some conflicting opinions about who owns the rights to certain mech designs, Harmony Gold, the American license holder for Macross, has been throwing lawyers at various BattleTech-related properties since the mid-90s, with this new BattleTech game being the latest battleground in the legal tug-of-war. However, last week Harmony Gold's case against Harebrained Schemes' upcoming game was dismissed, clearing the way for this launch. And for a game that probably had less development drama, there's 39 Days to Mars, which is about a couple of 19th century blokes who decide to puzzle their way up to the Red Planet. It looks pretty neat. For some slightly more action-oriented adventures, Earth Defense Force 4.1 Wing Diver the Shooter brings some vertical scrolling action to the never-ending invasion of alien insects. And of course, it wouldn't be a week on Steam without some sweet-looking precision platformers. One Watcher fills that role this week with some slick mechanics and a colorful art style. Likewise, I'm not entirely sure what kind of game Inked is exactly, but it seems to tell the story of a pen-drawn samurai, so that's pretty cool. For multiplayer fun, Murderous Pursuits is a stealth game that looks like it has you plotting the gruesome deaths of your friends, but, you know, in a fun, entertaining way. And while there are plenty of dating sims and visual novels to choose from, Monster Prom stands out as a humorous entry in the genre with multiplayer elements. Finally on Steam, Dynamite Bunny, because, of course, why wouldn't you have a game about a bunny with explosives? Over on consoles, Galgun 2 is getting a multi-platform release, yes, even on the Nintendo Switch, so you can take your panty-shooting action anywhere you want to go. And also coming to the Switch this week, Houghton Valhalla Edition has you battling the gods with a teeny tiny Viking, so good luck with that. Wrapping things up with this week's awesome video, if you need a primer before going into Infinity War, IGN has made a pretty handy guide to the MCU in chronological order, though I'm not sure about that placement for Doctor Strange.
After being banished by his father Odin, Thor and his hammer land in New Mexico so he can learn him some humanity. Hulk fights the botched super soldier Abomination in Harlem. Cap is discovered in the Arctic ice, and Tony and his super best pal Rhodey defeat Vonko and his drones, all during the same week in 2009.
That's everything for this week, but what about next week? Well, like I said, I'm aiming for monetization, so I'm going to stick it out for at least a little while. If I can get there by Comic-Con, we'll see how things go after that. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, definitely share it with a friend, and of course, for the first time this year, have a great week!